anybody's faces anymore.
You know what?
You can't do it.
You can't either.
We don't have any rings.
You and Kirkland and Justice and Rosenthal all saying the Nats were going to win.
Away.
Welcome to PTI. In today's episode, the Astros win the World Series. Cam Newton is sad and Jimmy Garoppolo might not play. But we begin with breaking news from Houston. Ian Rappaport was first to report that Deshaun Watson appeared to tear an ACL in practice today on a non-contact injury and appears to be out for the season. Watson has been the presumptive rookie of the year, Tony. He looks so good. 19 touchdown passes, tied for the league lead. Your reaction?
Well, my reaction is the same as your reaction. It's a devastating thing to think about, particularly a non-contact injury. You don't expect anything like this to happen in practice. If he's gone for the whole year, and he's a great and exciting player, I think that last Sunday's game against Seattle was the best game I saw all year, him going back and forth with Russell Wilson. So they lose Deshaun Watson, and they've already lost J.J. Watt. I mean, they're two signature players on offense and on defense, gone for the whole year. That's you inhale on that. You go, ooh.
And, Tony, you know what? My thoughts the last 12 hours have been with the people of Houston and the high that they experienced winning the World Series. And now the low. Look, this is a great, great thing, the Astros winning the World Series. And people will party, and there will be a parade, and there will be good feeling for winning the first franchise, World Series in whatever, the 56-year history. But, Tony, Houston's a football city. Texas is a football place. And for this quarterback to look as good as he's looked, 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns in his most recent game, for him to go down like this undercuts even the good feeling of a World Series. And part of this was sort of the recovery from the hurricane, the recovery from the flooding, the feel good from that, and the feel good didn't last as long as it should have.
I think that's still there. I think that these injuries happen. I think that the Astros winning is a very, very good thing for Houston. But when I hear about non-contact injuries, this reminds me of pitchers who are out on the mound and they throw a pitch and there's a sudden pain right in the elbow, and the next thing you know, it's Tommy John.
You're Tommy John.
The next thing you know.
And for football players, it's usually an Achilles, or often is, Tony, I got to think of another Texas athlete, quarterback, RG3, who at the end of a rookie of the year sort of season, he got hit a lot.
Okay, but that was, not non-contact in practice, where it's not.
No matter how you assess it. We move now to what a couple of hours ago was a much happier story. The Houston Astros winning their first ever World Series. Surely one of the most exciting ever World Series by taking Game 7 from the Dodgers in a surprisingly one-sided way. George Springer was named the series MVP, but there is so much credit and still joy to spread from GM Jeff Luhnow to force of nature Jose Altuve to uber-talented Carlos Correa to Johnny-come-lately Justin Verlander. Tony, what are your thoughts on what this means for the franchise, again, for the city of Houston, and for Major League Baseball?
I'm going to make this a happy story again. I'm going to say how wonderful it is for a city that endured hurricanes and flooding, and not just this year with flooding, but last year with flooding as well, to come away with a champion like this. And I'm reminded of the New Orleans Saints getting very good right after Hurricane Katrina and eventually winning the Super Bowl, and how much that meant to that area. It's incalculable what this means to a city and to a region. In terms of the team itself, though, I'm going to exercise a little caution here. 2 years ago, Kansas City won the World Series, and everybody said they've got the formula, defense, and a lot of bullpen. Okay? Now they're not even in the playoffs. Last year, the Cubs, they've got the formula, power hitting and starting pitching, and they lost to the Dodgers. So I would just say, enjoy this with the Astros. There are no guarantees.
Enjoy it as much as you can, Tony. It doesn't mean anything to baseball, because the Cubs put together a team the same way. Houston had, the losses, 106, 108, 111, whatever it is.
Yes,
the Cubs didn't lose quite that many games, but nearly that many games. And there's a formula. And some other team will bubble up and use a similar formula and figure it out. Whether it's bullpen or starting pitching, you better have pitching and lots of it and enough to get you through the 1st of November now. But the Astros, Tony, I was looking at Altuve last night, and I mentioned force of nature, and his personality seems so infectious. But I still, this is happier for you than me, and I'm usually a little more optimistic about life in general than you are.
Let me go back to the city for a second.
I can't separate the two things coming from Houston today.
Let me go back to the city, because this is an important concept. that after the hurricanes and after the floods, the management and the ownership of that team said, what can we do for this city?
Yep.
How can we get a winner right now? And they went out and they spent a lot of money on Justin Verlander, which was a very good thing to spend. And they won this thing. And as sad as it is that Deshaun Watson is out, they still won the World Series.
They did.
I think it's a bigger deal
Tony,
than
maybe the Astros can help ride this out, too. They've done it once, asking a lot of them.
Free agent to be Yu Darvish started 2 games in the World Series, and he did not get through the second inning in either. For the first time in his career as a starter, Darvish failed to record even a single strikeout, and he did that twice. Now, Darvish was 2-0 in the previous playoff series, beating Arizona and Chicago, going 11 in the third innings with 2 earned runs and 14 strikeouts. But his failures in the World Series were catastrophic. Wilbon, if you ran the Dodgers, would you re-sign Yu Darvish?
Tony, there's no way I can know that. I have to sign somebody who's like Yu Darvish, but I got an ace. I still got Clayton Kershaw, who, by the way, Game 5 is essential as anything, and he got lit up.
That's
ace
right.
did, the Hall of Fame bound ace, in Game 5. So I've got to go out and get somebody who's a Scottie Pippen, if you will, to be the number 2 guy on that staff, to be a guy who's going to soak up innings. You want him to be durable. You want him to make whatever it is now. You make, 35, 36 starts, something like that. It doesn't have to be Darvish. You've got the money. You're the Dodgers. You can go bigger if somebody bigger than him becomes available. But it has to be somebody in that realm that gives some cover to Clayton Kershaw, because he can't be the only one out there.
I think that Darvish is going to be a bargain for somebody, and I'm hoping this was just an anomaly, that these 2 starts in the World Series isn't who he is. This particular series was damaging to a lot of pitchers. The closers, Giles and Jansen, they got rocked in this series, and you end up, if you're Houston, you don't even go to the bullpen. You start going to starters all along the way. Keuchel and Hill, they didn't go long in this thing. You mentioned Clayton Kershaw. That, to me, was disastrous. Game 5, and I know he pitched well last night, but Game 5 with a lead of 4-0 and I believe a lead of 7-3. 7-4, not 7-3. And he couldn't hold those leads probably for the first time in his career. This series was, I think, about hitting, Mike. I think both teams were about hitting in this one. And it hurt a lot of pitchers. It did. McCullers was beating people last night. He was hitting more bodies than he was hitting the bats.
More people than he got out.
Yeah. Cam Newton said all the right things after his favorite wide receiver, Kelvin Benjamin, was traded away for a bunch of draft choices. Newton said, quote, "It's hard when you have emotional attachments, but it's over with. It's time for us to move forward, however hard it may be," unquote. But Newton was demonstrably sad and glum when he said this. It seems like he was blindsided by this trade. Wilbon, would you have traded a guy who means so much to your franchise player?
And ain't just a franchise player he means a lot to. He means a lot to the franchise. This is a franchise that said before the draft, we have to get better offensively. We have to augment our offense. So they go out and they draft Christian McCaffrey. They've got Greg Olsen, except, oops, they don't have Greg Olsen. But the point was to get more weapons for Cam Newton on offense so he doesn't have to tuck and run and get his head blasted all the time. But now they trade the wide receiver. Don't tell me, well, he didn't spread it around enough. You don't get rid of a guy because Cam Newton didn't spread it around. Coach better. You and your staff have to make Cam understand then that he needs to use those 3 weapons if they're all out there to maximize Carolina's offense. That didn't happen.
Every time we've seen Cam Newton at a podium since 20 minutes after the Super Bowl, there's something bad there. There's something wrong with the body language. He looks like he's being hit on the podium the way he's hit on the field. Greg Olsen is out for the year. Yeah, and Greg Olsen was the security blanket for Cam Newton. Now you trade away the best wide receiver you've got, Kelvin Benjamin. It makes me wonder, what are you doing? What is the guiding philosophy? You don't have any running backs. Cam Newton is your leading rusher. Now who is he supposed to throw the ball to? Do you want to win or don't you want to win? I don't get this.
Tony, I'm sure they'll have some spinorama formula. If you were talking to somebody in Carolina, they would tell you, here's why we did what we did, and who knows what it's tied to. It's preposterous. Tony, there's a common sense eye test level. He's your best receiver. Cam needs somebody to throw to. Work it out. Find a way that he can utilize him more. There's a lot of bad decision-making, weird coaching. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the NFL right now.
If you want Cam Newton to spread it around more, give him receivers. He's lost his 2 best receivers now.
Unbelievable. 48 hours ago, people were all jazzed about the trade, sending Jimmy Garoppolo to San Francisco and what it might do for the quarterback desperate 49ers. Well, it may do nothing, at least in the short term. Coach Kyle Shanahan told reporters yesterday, quote, "I can't promise you guys that he'll play this year. I know that we have a guy we're excited about, and I know he has the ability to help this team in the future," close quote. But Shanahan added, quote, "We didn't just do this just to save this year," close quote. Tony, would you understand not playing Garoppolo this season?
Mike, I don't know if this is defensible. It seems unbelievably arrogant to me. You're 0-8. You work for a guy who has just fired 2 coaches after 1 year each. And you're so secure that you can say, I don't have to play Garoppolo this year. I'm trading for a guy because I think he's my quarterback for the next X years. And by the way, he's going to become a free agent at the end of this year. So you're not going to test drive him for the last 8 games to see how much money you want to put out there. Mike, this is not a painting that comes from a foreign country where you're waiting to clear customs. He's in San Francisco now. He's on your squad. Play him. I don't get this.
Tony, this seems nearly as dumb to me as the previous story about trading your best wide receiver. So you've got a rookie head coach, and you put him out there. The next 8 games can be sort of a combination of training camp and exhibition season if you want, preseason if you want. Give him the 8 games. It doesn't matter. Your season's shot. I guess if I was going to play devil's advocate, I could say, wait a minute, my team's not ready to have Garoppolo out there. I don't want to put him in harm's way. He doesn't know the offense, blah, blah, blah. So take the 8 games. That would be my response.
If you don't want to play him in game 9 or game 10 because you want him to learn the offense, you want him to take a lot of reps, fine. But by game 11 or game 12, you just can't sit there and not play this guy. Again, what is our problem?
Week 9 of the NFL season begins tonight, which makes it a great time for a visit from ESPN NFL analyst and Hall of Fame quarterback Steve Young. Steve, we're going to start with the news about Andrew Luck. The Colts have placed him on injured reserve, so he's out for the entire season, the remainder of it. He says he's optimistic he's going to be able to come back. You share that optimism?
I mean, Michael, he's John Wayne. Like no matter what the odds are, who is against me, I'm in for the fight. I'm in for I'll take everyone on, and that battered his body. And so I'm not optimistic because here's a shoulder that bothered him in 15. He finally gets surgery in January. The NFL experts in medical science on the joints, especially the shoulder, are renowned. And now all of a sudden, 8, 9, 10 months later, and we're back to square one. To me, that inevitably there's a second surgery coming. Inevitably, if this labrum cannot handle the stress, the shoulder socket, and to be able to rip the football, those are all super concerning to me. So no, I am not optimistic until I see otherwise.
Steve, how do you think the Colts ought to handle this going forward?
Well, the Colts need to pray because their inability to they knew Andrew Luck was of John Wayne. They knew that his personality type is like, just pile it on me. I can take it. Don't worry about it and never give in. Remember we talked about Monty Python, I'll bite you to death. I'm never going to give an inch. And they didn't protect him from his best quality. And so now they just need to pray that he can get healthy. And once he gets healthy, can we put an offensive line that's commensurate to his ability and his expertise? That hasn't happened, and they put him in a real jam. They philosophically are going to run the football, and we're going to try to road grade people. What about protecting your number one asset? Huge mistake. So the Colts need to pray that he can get healthy, and then in that interim time, can we get 5 linemen that can protect him? Or otherwise, we're just going to turn him into Archie Manning, where he's great player, great talent, never seeing the full measure of it because we couldn't put people in front of him to take care of him.
Steve, let me turn to a quarterback about whom there is no uncertainty, and that is Tom Brady. The Patriots are clearly betting on the fact that Tom Brady will stay healthy. Now, Brady talks about muscle pliability, about softening his muscles to absorb hits. He sounds like he has discovered a secret to career longevity. You've been in this position. Does this sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, I think the game continually uses medical science and nutrition and all the things that we're learning to make your longevity. And if you're willing to go through the rigor of it, which Tom clearly is, and try to extend every inch of epigenetics and biogenetics and everything else, all the information that's out there, and try to extend on it and have as many kind of kale drinks that you possibly can. And how are you going to, those are all things that we've been learning. That curve has been coming for some time. And I think Tom's trying to take advantage of every bit of it. which is tremendous, and it's paying off. You can see 40 years old, and you can't. I'm looking every week. I'm like, come on, Tom, show me that you're 40, man. That's not right. Your mitochondria, the things that are in the cellular level's 40. It's got to show at some point. And he's actually extending. I think he's proving his point. Now, do I believe that you can extend it, 45? I do not believe it's possible, but I got to let Tom try to prove me wrong. But there's no question you can, if you're willing to have the discipline for it, Tony, you can extend your career health-wise by using every bit of the new information that's out there.
All right, we'll get you out of here with this, Steve. Bills and Jets tonight, Thursday Night Football. The Bills are 5-2. Mina Kimes writes today about the great debate as to how good Tyrod Taylor is or isn't. When you see him play, you are seeing what?
I'm seeing a tremendous athlete. Oh my gosh, the things that he can do. You're just like, wow. And how can we bottle that from a college kind of atmosphere to a pro atmosphere where the job is to deliver the ball from the pocket? Championship football, and I've said it for many years, no question until proven differently, championship football is delivering the ball from the pocket. And if you're going to be a championship team, you need a guy that can do that. Well, Tyrod's not there yet, and he's quick to get out because he's so athletic. He says to himself, hey, look, I'm a playmaker. I go out there and I just make plays. And a great defense, a ferocious defense, who's turning over the ball a bunch, and a running game that seems to be one of the better in the league. That's not a bad additional quality that you can kind of go win with a quarterback that's just a playmaker. But in time, Tyrod's got to get into the data mining of the position so he can deliver the ball from the pocket, discern through everything, and be an orchestrator. But right now, it's fun to watch, and it might be enough for the Bills to get into the playoffs. I just don't know if it's enough to go win championships because, again, the job is to deliver the ball from the pocket.
Steve, thanks for being with us.
Thank you,
know
Steve.
We appreciate it. I'm parting company
All right,
on
boys.
kale smoothies or kale shakes or whatever that was.
boy.
Anything with kale. Let's take one
Avocado
last
ice
break.
cream, Wilbon.
But still to come, no avocado either. The Atlanta Hawks
Avocado
have
ice
lost
cream.
7 straight. Is there any hope for a turnaround?
No, they stink.
And are the Red Sox smart to bring Tony La Russa into their organization?
On-demand button on your remote and get the latest new releases everyone's looking.
Pardon the interruption is presented by Sky Vodka. Make every day. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Time to get happy, people. Happy 23rd birthday, Jordan Howard. He, not Grange, not Sayers, not Peyton, holds the Bears franchise record for rookie rushing yards. On a team with no passing game to speak of, he's essential. Yet there is the matter of 2 drop passes that could have the Bears 5-3 instead of 3-5, Tony.
You're hijacking the show. You sit in that seat and you do a Chicago athlete.
That's right.
Happy 65th birthday, Scott Boras.
Oh, yeah, he's essential to wish Scott Boras happy birthday. Happy anniversary, John Wall. It was 7 years ago today. You made your home court debut in Washington and did
Look
a
at this guy.
31-second rendition of the Dougie upon being introduced.
Look at it.
Tony Wall nearly had a triple-double that night, and I think the Wizards can reach the conference finals this spring. But they threw in a clunker at home last night against the Suns, as I told you yesterday.
John Wall is a great player. He thinks he's the best point guard in the league, so I think he has to win something. I thought they'd win that game last night by 25. I think they'll beat Cleveland.
I do too, Tony. Happy trails to another game for the Atlanta Hawks. They won their opener against the pathetic Mavericks and have now lost 7 straight to land in last place in the East. They've gotten rid of Horford, Millsap, Korver, and Teague, and now rival the Bulls and the Nets for being Drek.
Let's talk about this for a second. All those players you mentioned, they were rivals of Cleveland for a while.
Yeah.
Now they are terrible. Who's running that team?
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, who's running that team?
One error, Greg Olsen is not necessarily out for the season. He's on IR, but he hopes to return against the Jets November 26th. That would make Cam Newton have better body language.
Pass it
We're
to him,
running
Cam.
out of show. Let's go to the big finish. Pro Football Talk reports the Browns co-owner Dee Haslam went nuclear on the front office for failing to acquire A.J. McCarron. Your thoughts, Tony?
It's a clown franchise, bro. You got to get rid of everybody there. Clean it out. The MMQB says USC quarterback Sam Darnold may stay in school if he's likely to be drafted by the Browns or a similar team. Does that make sense?
What makes sense is Sam Darnold needs to stay in school because he ain't good enough to play in the league yet, not based on what he's done this year. Tony La Russa is joining the Red Sox as an assistant to Dave Dombrowski. Is that a good fit?
Who knows more about baseball than Tony La Russa? Anywhere he wants to go seems good to me. Justin Verlander and Kate Upton will reportedly marry soon in Italy. Wish them well.
Wish them well, absolutely. Let's see, a World Series ring and a ring on Kate Upton. That's a good use of rings, I'd say, Tony, for Mr. Verlander. Last one, Warriors Spurs tonight. Who you got?
Do the Spurs have Kawhi